welcome to MPAC 24 PR's 6th annual Hollywood Game Changers, a conversation with women behind popular film and TV projects panel. I'm Kourtney Bell, and I am so excited to be here with you guys today and all of you today, so let's just jump right in. Question for everyone, and this is very important to me. What was the moment in your career where you really felt like I belong in this industry? Like, I'm planted and I'm here.
You want me to start?
Yes. No pressure.
I actually don't think I've necessarily had that moment, because I think that when I entered the industry, first I entered it a little bit in a more obscure way, like a little bit later in life. I was a journalist first turned filmmaker. And so I think when I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, I kind of started paving my own lane and didn't seek the validation of the gatekeepers, which makes it very difficult. And I've definitely had moments of struggle and, self-doubt because of that. But at the same time, I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I became a filmmaker. With that said, I do think there was one moment that really sticks out in my mind. We just had our world premiere of my documentary, Meandering Scars, a few weeks ago. And thank you. And after the world premiere, we were exiting the theater, and this woman came up to me in tears, barely able to speak. And she just said, "Your movie is a gift to the world." And at that moment, I knew I'm meant to do this, and that's what drives me, and is the reason I will continue.
Amazing.
I started to feel like I belong in this industry when the ideas I had started becoming real. When ideas and suggestions that I was making to the artists I was working with and the executives I was working with started being applied to the work they were doing. That's when it clicked for me that I was definitely supposed to be here. Also, most recently on Wylde Pak, a show that just premiered about a month ago on Nickelodeon. Yeah, let's go. Being able to work on a show that highlights a mixed family and uplifts Asian culture for the first time was truly special. I had personally never seen a show like this growing up, so working with the creators who made it a priority to ensure that the show was diverse both on screen and off screen with the cast and the crew and the production was something that made me feel like I was supposed to be part of that project. So that was also really special.
So for me, I think it's more about a lot of little moments than one specific moment that came about and just made me feel like I belong. So some of those specific little moments are, when people come up to you, and it's very similar to these two, like when they tell you that your work has really impacted them and really sort of inspired them and changed them in some way. And so I think the best thing that I have encountered is when I get emails from kids wanting to play my music on the piano. Like I'm a former piano teacher before I got too busy, and it just really makes me feel so inspired just to continue what I'm doing and creating things that they love. So yeah.
The moment that really made it real that I was working in Hollywood was actually the first moment I ever saw my name in the credits of something. And it's such a small thing. I was so far back in the credits that it was almost like you blink and you miss it. But I had spent my whole life wanting to make cartoons, and the fact that my name was on a cartoon, a little short film on Apple Plus called Blush, was this incredibly surreal moment, and it made me feel like, okay, my life is going to begin now.
I come from more a comedy makeup world, so
I don't have anything like quite as inspiring and beautiful as all of you've said, but honestly, I think even being right here on this panel today is making me feel like I'm in a little bit, because I used to be the one that wore like the poison ivy costume and came here, I think, right out of makeup school. I made my friend into Voldemort, and we like stayed in a hotel at the end of like border of Mexico, and like got up at 4 in the morning and did the makeups and came out, and seeing the reaction of everybody just being so excited for that makeup was amazing. But I think right now, for me, there's so many different awards you could win and so many accolades that say that like I could make it. But I always thought if I could do a makeup that, you know, transcends that someone at Comic-Con would want to wear, that it becomes like this iconic, you know, like Chucky or like V-Meal with Beetlejuice, something like that. That's when I feel like I know that, okay, I made an impact in the industry.
Yep.
I felt like I belonged on my very first movie, which was an indie horror movie. I'm sure that some of us can relate to that, starting out like that. And it was all night shoots, completely. The whole shoot was night shoots. And I would get wrapped early sometimes at 3 a.m., and I would be sad that I had to go home. I would miss working on the weekends. I just wanted to be on set doing makeup at all times. And I also loved the camaraderie that you experience on a film set. There's so many different creative departments coming together. And I don't have much experience in other industries, but I imagine that at other workplaces, your colleagues are your competitors. And on a film set, you have the sound team, makeup artists, hair, costume, the set department, and everybody's coming together, and they all want everyone else to do an amazing job so that you create this beautiful collective piece of art that complements everybody's work. And I love that about film.
Well, first of all, how cool is Comic-Con? Thank you, Andrew Cohen and MPAC 24 PR and team over there. Thank you. I think the sense of belonging is it ebbs and flows throughout your life. But as a cultural consultant for the Muslim Public Affairs Council Hollywood Bureau, I remember feeling a tangible sense of belonging when we would do roundtables in writers' rooms, and they would take our notes and then say thank you. And then we want more. We want to have more conversations with you because you're helping us tell a better and authentic story. That is a moment that I remember as being tangible. And just the other day, my 9-year-old nephew saw his last name because my name was in the credits for a film that we consulted on like 9 years ago, and he thought that was cool. And that was a moment of belonging for sure. So thank you.
I feel like the through line here is time and knowing that your name and your voice and your art is really making an impact on the art that you're creating and everybody else is seeing. That's really beautiful. Allison, Meandering Scars intersects issues like domestic violence, mental health, and disability representation. How do you navigate the responsibility of telling a story that carries so much weight for so many communities?
First, I think that's an amazing question, by the way. I'll start off my answer by saying that when I first heard, so the subject of my documentary, her name is Erica Bogan. She is a single mother, domestic violence survivor. She was paralyzed in a domestic violence incident, struggles with mental health and suicidal ideation for many years of her life. So when I first heard of her story, I related to it on so many levels. My own sort of story, my mom was a single mom, she was a single mom, and my older sister is profoundly disabled, and all my work as a journalist turned filmmaker has been focused on the disability community because of my sister and my grandmother who had MS and used a wheelchair full time. So when I first heard Erica's story, I knew that I was the right person to tell it. And so something I did immediately was I connected with Erica on a very personal level. I wanted her to trust me. And so, and I should say I have a business partner and he did the same thing, and he had his own reasons for really feeling close to Erica's story. And so we were very open and honest with her in the very beginning and throughout the process. And so we immediately built that trust with her. And so that was sort of Erica was always we were telling her story, but she was helping to inform what we ended up, the final product that was Meandering Scars. And I should also add that in order to ensure, even though I had the experience with disability and mental health, we wanted to make sure that those communities were properly represented. So when we were hiring, we actually hired 2 editors, one who is disabled, to ensure that that lived experience was also in the editing room. And before we finalized our documentary, we had screenings with people. We had people with disabilities, people who struggle with mental health conditions, and we also had people who had experienced relational violence screen our movie, so we could ensure that all of those communities were properly represented before we finalized our movie.
That's amazing. Thank you. Angelica.
Hey.
Angelica, you lead your own creative company while managing collaborations with high-profile productions. What have you learned about leadership and creative decision-making as a woman of color building her own lane in the industry?
So thanks for that. Leading as a woman of color often means doing it without a blueprint. It means trusting your instincts even when others can't see the vision just yet. It also means protecting the creative while creating space for others that don't normally get certain types of opportunities. I also do think it's important to be able to adapt and pivot especially in fast-paced moving environments under any circumstance as a leader, depending on the project or opportunity.
Erica, you described your process as being kind of like a musical chef, where you're pulling harmonies from one piece, instrumentation from another, and putting it all into a pot and blending it into something original. I'm sure we all know how to do that, right? But can you share an example from Thomas and Friends where that creative approach really came to life in a cue or a theme?
Sure. I forgot that I had told you that. So now I'm like, okay. But I think what's interesting is I think I said that because I think I have this very weird synesthesia where I think that sounds taste like certain tastes. It's very strange, but it often will strike me like, oh, this tastes like something. And I think that brings up a really interesting way to talk about art, because it's really hard to talk about process and how we assimilate all our influences into something brand new. And I'm pretty sure that everyone up here also has a similar sort of assimilation process in their brain. And so I think back to the way that I was composing on, so Thomas and Friends, All Engines Go, there's like a ton of chase scenes. They're always falling down mountains and things. So I'm constantly writing this like intense race music, and there's this one scene, and I was like, it just struck me that this piece of music that I was obsessed with when I was 14, I was like, the shape of this music is going to be absolutely perfect. But of course, you can't just borrow so much from your inspiration. So you kind of have to mix it up into a big pot of things. So I took essentially the shape and where it modulated and the gestures in it, and it really fit this scene exactly perfectly. It's the scene in Race for the Sodor Cup where Thomas is overtaking the competitor and he's gonna win the race in the end. And so the piece I'm talking about is it's the overture to Remember the Titans movie. I don't know, I was obsessed with that when I was a teenager, and so it was absolutely perfect. And then I went and I looked for all these other influences. So I'm looking at Ponyo if you know that score by Joe Hisaichi, and also How to Train Your Dragon gets in there a little bit, and like a lot of like Hans Zimmer, and there's a lot of like racing music where it's like race cars, and it's like the movie Cars, and so I'll put like I'll stack a bunch of different pieces of music on the scene, and I'll be like, these drums work. This chord progression works, this melody is in the wrong instrument, but it's kind of going in the right shape, and and then you get something that's like completely you've made those choices, and it's just original. Yeah.
It's so great just to be reminded how art influences art, and just continuing to put our own work out there just makes room for more amazing things to be built. Grace, you want to clap? As creative director, you were involved in every stage of Wondla's journey, from development to final mix. What did that creative leadership look like in practice, and how did it influence the final product?
A great question. I think for me, creative leadership on Wondla was really about just being a constant. I came on Wondla full-time in a moment of transition. I had been the development executive on the project from 2018, and then when it went through a creative shift, I was brought on to kind of help the showrunner get acclimated to the show, because he didn't know the characters or what had happened before, and so I was just kind of there to guide him as to what had happened up to that point. And we just clicked creatively, which I think is a big part of being in any of our industries, is like just collaboration and meeting people and sort of finding where you can help them and they can help you. But we clicked creatively, and he asked me to come on full time to be his number 2 on the show. And so basically what my job started off being was just jumping in with both feet, because the production had stopped completely, and we had to get scripts into production like immediately. So we were writing on Christmas, we were like writing through the night. There was one point where I was in the parking lot of an animal hospital, like writing the scripts, and just getting stuff like done as quickly as possible, but still maintaining that level of creative integrity that we needed for the show. And then after that, when things were starting to kind of move, the train was going, my job morphed into helping to build out the team. And I met with a ton of really amazing writers. I found this pair in Bob Snow and Christian Magalese, who became our story editors, absolutely fantastic writers. And we were just like a three-legged stool, where the two of them were running the writer's room. I was in there as a writer, kind of in the trenches with them, but also as the liaison for creative and for production and executive needs. And then after our writer's room broke, I was then in all of the mixes and was able to sort of speak to the fact that like, no, you can't cut that line, because 2 or 3 episodes down the road, that's gonna be super important. I knew the serialization, I knew the show inside and out. And so then what I ended up doing was doing all the dialogue polishes on all the scripts. So what that ended up meaning was I touched every single script at every single, I touched every single script for all 3 seasons, and I was able to sort of like maintain a sense of constancy through the whole show. And so I think that's what that show needed, and so that's what I did.
And Katie, makeup is often thought of as a subtle or invisible in shows, but it does play a critical role in shaping how we perceive people on screen. Were there any specific choices that you made that viewers may not have noticed but were crucial to the tone or character arcs in the rehearsal?
Yeah, I actually can't talk too much about the rehearsal because we've signed some very hefty NDAs.
Good to know.
But I would like to use a little anecdote. I used to work in theme parks back in the day, and I used to work at Universal Studios doing Grinchmas. So I was down in the basement applying Who's all day and Grinches to go out into the park. And that's a makeup that is really important because you're interacting with people up close. So that makeup has to be flawless, and you really want those kids to believe that they're really meeting a Who or really meeting a Grinch. So there was one day, I did it for several years, but there was one time had this fun idea because, like Disneyland, Disney World, they love to pump in those smells and really get that nostalgic feeling going. It's really a 4D experience when you're in a theme park. So I had just been at Bath and Body Works the next day and had seen they have a sugar cookie smell and a Christmas tree smell and candy cane. And I bought a few and brought them to my boss and I said, hey, what if we start spraying some of the Who's with these scents and really give the kids this full-on interactive experience when they're interacting with this makeup? So we have this chef who bakes cookies. He loved it. He would douse himself in the sugar cookie spray, and the kids would just be like, "He smells like cookies, Mom. He's free." It just adds to the whole dimension. And even when you're shooting films and stuff, incorporating things like that is something that's really great for the characters to do.
Yeah, it's just so great to hear how much passion you bring.
Yeah,
not
it's
only
so
that
fun.
job, but
It's all about building characters, even just with makeup or smells or anything, to try and create something that really evokes emotion in the character and the actor, and then with the audience as well.
definitely. Scotia, your work on Star Trek Strange New Worlds required both creativity and collaboration. Can you tell us about your process for designing casualty looks and the tone you use to help you visualize and communicate those ideas to the team?
Yes, so on Star Trek, I worked under an amazing department head named Olga Kirnos. We have very similar personalities. We actually have the same Myers-Briggs personality type, which is equally left brain and right brain. So of course we're creative, but also very analytical. And I don't resonate with artists who say, I just feel it out and see where it takes me. I'm a planner, and Olga showed us this great tool. It's called Procreate, but you could use any illustration program on the iPad. And we could mock up injury makeups, little cuts, spacey makeup looks on photos of the cast in their regular hair, makeup, and wardrobe. And that just allowed me to go into the process on my own before, it's a live experience when you're working on an actor's face. So I could really plan it out, step back, see how it looks, and I found that doing it that way, planning it out beforehand, gave me a much more refined hand when it came time to doing the makeups, and now I incorporate that into all the makeups I do for every job.
Ooh, that's amazing. Thank you. Sue, your work at MPAC centers on narrative change. What does that look like in practice when you're consulting on a film or a series? And how do you help guide creators towards more authentic portrayals of Muslim characters?
Thank you so much. That's a great question. Like most emerging communities in America, there's a lot of dis and misinformation around us. And so part of our work is to educate first and peel back the misinformation, that demystify what's out there, because a lot of the stuff that's out there around us is not accurate, actually, not authentic. And so our work is truth-telling through storytelling. It's not just about visibility, but it's about authenticity. And so when we consult, we are looking at is the character authentic? It could be accurate, but are they also authentic? Is the storyline authentic? Does it represent Muslim communities? For example, the Black Muslim community is the largest Muslim community in America, but you don't see a lot of characters that are Black Muslims. You see a lot of South Asians and Arabs and Middle Easterns. And so our consulting also includes changing changing the character's profile, adding characters, maybe also asking them to eliminate characters because it doesn't balance out the overall story arc. With the most recent consulting client, which was Hulu's Deli Boys, which we consulted on from A to Z, that was a fun project because it was very authentic. The characters happened to be Muslim, but they were really jerks in real life. They were just normal guys that had normal lives, and they were just jerks. And I know I can't say anything, I can't say profanity, but they were just jerks. But it was like, you know what, not to imply that Muslim men are jerks, but just to say it's very authentic and it was very balanced. And so when we work with production companies and studios, we are looking at, is the character authentic? Are they promoting stereotypes that we need out to take away because it's harmful? It's really a matter of life and death these days. And do we have the opportunity to go in and enhance the character's profile and storyline? And we always tell our clients, like, we're not a watchdog. We're not going to go and reprimand anyone. But in the room, we will be honest and very, very candid. And what we said, we're going to give you notes, but if Muslim Twitter goes crazy, we're not going to give you cover. And so we consider ourselves as a partner so they can tell a better story.
Oh, thank you. Erica, Angelica, and Katie. You each work in very different mediums, but all of you play a role in shaping how stories are seen, heard, or felt. What does creative authorship mean to you, especially as women in your field?
Creative authorship to me means having a say in how stories are told and who gets to tell them. Whether I'm representing talent, working on music, or building a project from the ground up, I'm always keeping in mind how to make space for others that are often overlooked. Also, I like to make sure that when I'm creating, everyone knows not to put me in a box. I think it's important, if you're multifaceted or versatile, to bring all the skills that you can to the table, especially when working in a team setting. But yeah, creative authorship means it's not just having ideas, but it's advocating for them and executing them in rooms that don't always have people like me. Yeah, I'd say that's what I got.
I mean, it's a funny question because I didn't really ever think that writing music had anything to do with being a man or a woman. Like it just is. It's music is music, and so coming into this industry and facing a couple scenarios where being a woman meant something specific was strange. I thought it was weird, and because I don't think when I write music it exudes a gender of any nature. So, but navigating a world that is the truth in was interesting, and it involved sort of coming up with a way to advocate for all women who encounter these potential barriers. And so I live in Canada, and we did a study on, how many women are working on projects that are funded through our government system. And the numbers are quite old now, maybe 2016, I think. And it was really bad. It was like 5% or something were composed by women. And it's very, very much improved since then. But I've taken on a big role in sort of the advocacy manner of that. But I think to answer your question directly, I think it is very important to be in this space and to create and just, I never see what I do as being an act as a gendered act, So it's weird, but I think it's important to be here and to be constantly just doing my best. So.
Yeah, to add to that, I went to film school before I was a makeup artist, so I saw like the disparage between the men and the women who were considered filmmakers at that time, and I sort of, pivoted and started doing a lot of makeup when I was at college because every college boy is doing a movie where someone gets shot or there's a zombie. So I had a lot of work. But at the same time, it seems that being a makeup artist is women's work. But back in the day, we weren't even allowed to be the makeup artists. It was like people like Ben Nye and there's, the Star Trek ones. What are they?
Right.
Yeah, yes. I heard it, yes. The Westmores, thank you, yeah. So just even being a female makeup artist, it might not now seem like a very big deal, but just being a woman in the film industry and advocating for women in the film industry is something that's so important. I've worked on so many film sets where I did not feel welcome or included. I worked on a TV show called SWAT, and I did not feel very safe all the time. But then the rehearsal, I would say, is something that's completely the opposite. And I know a lot of people are like, Nathan's a genius, and he did all of this. But in every department, there is either a woman department head or there is a key on that show, like doing all of that detail work, keeping all of those storylines together and organizing it. There are so many women in casting. We have someone's nominated for an Emmy for editing for one of the episodes for Pilot's Code. So I just love how inclusive the rehearsal is, even just with people of color, women, just everyone. And so I will always say that Nathan's great, but he knows who to put behind him.
Yeah.
He knows good people, so.
And I just want to say, I have chills listening to all three of you speak, and I'm sure all of you feel the same. I do as well, but sometimes just existing means being
basically
a leader.
just being there
Yeah,
is like
being
the
a
best
leader.
way you can advocate and to not, I'm a department head, so I'm one of the bosses, and I'm not going to take crap from somebody from another department because, that's not how this works. We're all bosses of our own departments coming together, working together, and no department's more important than the other, even though camera would like to think that. But, it's very, everybody's important on a film set.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sue and Allison, representation is such a big topic in our industry. How do you personally advocate for inclusivity and equity in your own work or teams?
Inclusion and advocacy and representation, it's within the fabric of everything that I do, the reason I became a filmmaker. When I co-created my company BirdMine in 2020, it was with the understanding that we were going to create stories about underrepresented communities, specifically the disability community. And so from the get-go, that was our focus. We were focusing on underrepresented communities. Our first two films, Meandering Scars, which I've already talked about, it's a feature-length documentary, disability-focused, and like I said in the previous question, we didn't just show a disability film, we didn't just have someone with a disability on screen, but we hired people behind the scenes with disabilities too, to ensure accurate and fair representation. And also we have a short film, and the short film centers both the disability and the Jewish community. And so when we were creating that, it was really important that we focus on those communities and portray them in the proper way. And so we hired all Jewish actors to play the Jewish roles. We hired a young woman who is Jewish and on the autism spectrum. It's a story actually inspired by my mom and sister, so to play the role inspired by my sister. So representation and equity is, it's the core of everything that we do. It's what we care about. And I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that we do at the Muslim Public Affairs Council is pray and hope to work ourselves out of a consulting job, because we want storytellers like Atif Myers in the room and Jamai right there, and many more to be doing the storytelling, to tell the story instead of consultants coming in to help the writers tell the story. We want Muslim identifying storytellers to tell Muslim themed stories. And so one of the things that we do when we consult, if we're doing a roundtable in a writer's room, we'll say, like, there's no one that looks like me or someone that may be, may identify as Muslim in the writer's room. And that's kind of tricky, because a Muslim, you can't identify him, right, unless you can really identify him. And so we try, with every consulting gig, we try to get our storytellers, our screenwriters hired, because when there's a critical mass in any emerging community, Jewish, Black, any LGBTQ, any community, when you have a critical mass in the writing room, in the writer's room, that's when the serious change is going to happen. From there, that impacts what's on screen, and then from there, that impacts policy and legislation. And so we come at it with the hopes of getting storytellers hired. With regards to existence, for some communities, existence is our resistance, really, because it is, there's a lot of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-LGBTQ, anti-Asian hate out there. And so for every story that we can tell that elevates, that's kind of a matter of survival. So it's that important.
Thank you. Grace and Scotia, creative leadership is a theme that runs through many of your careers. What does good creative leadership look like to you, especially as women building or managing teams?
Let creatives be creative. All of us are artists, so I think that if you try to manage your teams with too much control, it can make them feel like they're not valued. So of course you want to make sure that they understand the vision and that they're aligned with the look of the show. But after that, let them do their own research, let them be creative, and also let them do what you can't.
Wow. That's really.
I think for me, it really comes down to one word, and that is brave. Be brave. Animation and filmmaking in general, it takes so long for something to go from the idea in your head to being on the screen. So we only get a few opportunities to see our work come to life and to live in the world. And as a result, I think it is so important that when we're in positions of creative leadership, that we maintain creative integrity and we really fight for the best possible product to go up on the screen. And I will say I am so, so proud of Wondla, and I'm so proud of all the people that worked on Wondla with me, because everybody just brought such creative integrity to the project. And I think that's because the leadership allowed for people to say, it's not good enough, it's not ready, it's not at the level that it should be. And that's not to say that we ignored budgets or production realities or schedules or anything like that, but it was to say that if this is going to go out into the world, we are going to make it the absolute best thing that it can be. And I think that takes a lot of bravery, especially when you're the only woman in the room and you haven't been doing it as long as a lot of other people. But for the sake of the work, you have to be brave.
I think we're all obviously having so much fun being here and going to have fun at Comic-Con, and art is fun, but I think it is important to talk about how serious art is, and what a great piece of advice to start off with, saying that to make art is to be brave and to push it forward. And I want to know, for all of you, for the next generation of women hoping to enter the entertainment industry, what advice would all of you give them?
I would say my biggest piece of advice is don't ask for permission and to just do it. I started off, I think the first question you asked me, and one of the things I mentioned, I'm a journalist turned filmmaker. So I spent most of my career as a journalist. And when my business partner and friend and I decided we were going to start creating films, specifically documentary at the time, as many people thought we were nuts, and they were like, "You're leaving your, full-time great jobs to embark on this unknown." And of course, it isn't an unknown. It was scary, and my journalism research skills definitely came in handy. But I think I knew what I wanted, and so did my, co-creator and friend, and we were not going to ask for permission. We were just going to do it, and thankfully, we've been successful. Our short film has educational distribution. We just got 2 offers for a purchase for our documentary, which is pretty amazing right now in this landscape. So we're really grateful, and so don't ask for permission. If you have a story you want to tell and you believe in it enough, do it.
If you really want to be in this industry, I tell everyone, focus on doing great work consistently. Discipline is everything. Pay attention to the details because they matter more than you think. Network across, not just up, because the people that are coming up with you will eventually be the ones opening up doors for you. You'll be overlooked and undervalued as a woman in this industry, but if you stay sharp, stay focused, stay locked in, you don't give up when things get difficult and you keep your standards high, then you're gonna find yourself getting a lot of opportunities you never thought were possible.
Yeah.
Similar to Allison, my background is in aerospace engineering. When I decided to pursue a career in entertainment, everyone thought I was insane.
That's pretty
And I just, if you set out a goal, just be relentless in your pursuit of whatever your goal is, and you will do it. Nothing is impossible.
So I teach a college class, and they're like 3rd and 4th years, and I always reinforce that you're in the job of not trying to impress anybody with your art specifically, but you want to generate some form of trust in you. So, and that's a 360 thing. You need to show up on time. You need to deliver on time. You need to, basically be trustworthy, and once people can trust you, then you can get your foot in the door and you can start building from there, and then eventually they're going to trust your creative opinions as well as your foundational just support. And the other one I would like to say is find mentors. Go and foster relationships with people that can be really important resource for you, because it's not always an automatic system that's built in. So go and find it.
So I would say, don't be afraid to start over. Whatever age you are, whatever industry you're in, like Allison and Angelica, I actually started my career as an M&A litigator. And I was a lawyer for a number of years. I actually went to law school because I wanted to be general counsel of Pixar. And turns out turns out I was terrible at everything you would need to be a good general counsel. But I was a good litigator because I was a good storyteller. And so when I reached a point where I realized I was going down a path and I was either going to kind of live that attorney life or I was going to start over, I started over, and I knocked on a lot of doors. I think probably I sent out maybe 100 job applications. I had gotten some great advice. You actually said this. I'd gotten some great advice from a mentor who said, if you're really serious about animation, you need to move to LA and you need to be willing to start at the bottom. Nobody is going to care that you were an attorney. So I did. I moved to LA and I started knocking on doors, and I went to the Annies and I went to, conventions, and I did whatever I could to just like start, meeting people, networking. And eventually I got a job at DreamWorks at the age of 30 as an assistant, making, $17 an hour. And it was like, there was nobody who was really my age, but it was fine because I was doing what I loved. And within a few years, I had, found a voice and a passion and was doing what I wanted to do in the industry. So I would say wherever you are in your life, whatever career you have now, those skills will find a way to be translated into filmmaking. Everything you have has value as a filmmaker, as an artist, so just do it.
To reiterate some of the points I think some of the other ladies made, a lot of the times you don't know who next to you could be the next, especially when you're working in the film industry, like who is going to be your next project or where you're going to meet your next person. So yeah, I feel like having an ego is not a thing you can have when you are working in the industry. The best actors that I know are the nicest, they're the ones that work the most. I think when I was first starting out, I saw women as competition because I was not a lawyer or anything like that. I did like theater and things like that. So it's like, oh, I want that part. She's gonna get that part. So I feel like we're taught to really compete against each other, and kind of turning that around and saying someone like, oh, so that girl's like way better at beauty makeup than me. But the filmmaking is so collaborative, and make that person make you look good, so I bring on that girl to do the beauty makeup on my show. So, everybody wins in that case, because it's not about who the better woman is. It's just trying to get more women in the industry and getting more women's stories told. So I would just say persist, because I think I first moved out to LA in 2008 when I was 22 and had no idea what I was doing, but I just kept doing it or trying and failing, and I thought I would made it when I got on the show Face Off for the first time doing special effects, and then I got kicked off third, so that didn't work. So it's just keep going, keep persisting. In the entertainment industry, there's going to be a lot of closed doors, but you just need that one door.
Absolutely.
So true.
I think a little bit of self-doubt is actually good because it keeps propelling you forward, but don't let it disqualify you from opportunities. And I promise you that every artist you've ever looked up to has doubted themselves and their entire career at one point. So I think that you just have to, it's going to happen inevitably, and you have to move through it.
That's so true. I'm going to underscore a few things, even though they are repetitive. You have to surround yourself with wonderful people. I want to give another shout out to my friend Atif Malik and Sami Haq, who they came from LA to just be here and be present with me. And so surround yourself with great people. With regards to advice, before I give advice, I ask a question. I ask them, is there another industry that you are as passionate about as this industry, the entertainment industry? And if the answer is yes, I tell them do the other thing. Because this industry is intense. If the answer is no, which I really love, then I say dive in, get in all the way, hone your craft, and don't let anyone or anything diminish your light. And then I remind them that we all talk about the power of love, but we don't talk enough about the power of like. If you're likable, people will do so much for you. So it is really, it's a people-to-people industry. And yes, the skills and the talent and the attributes matter, but if you are engaging, likable, authentic, truthful, I think those are the attributes that will help you succeed. That's been my experience. And then with regards to redefining yourself, don't ever think you can't. I used to be a banker and a registered Republican. So you can redefine yourself at any time, right?
Allison, Angelica, Erica, Grace, Katie, Scotia, and Sue, thank you guys so much. Can we have one more round of applause?
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, people were crying in the audience. I have chills. I wish we could do this forever. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today. But thank you guys for being here and discussing your amazing careers and work. Also, thank you to MPAC 24 PR and Comic-Con.
Shout out Andrew.
Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew.
Let's go.
For putting this amazing panel together, and to all of you guys for joining us. Tag us in your post and use hashtag Hollywood Game Changers and at MPAC 24 PR. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sean.